Welcome home. This is the Irish Roots Cafe, where every day's a holiday and there's always room for one more. Hey, come right this way. Have a seat with me today in the corner booth. We're celebrating episode number 122 of this podcast. That's the Irish Genealogy and History podcast. We also have several others, one on the Irish in America and one on Irish song and recitation, and one, of course, is our video podcast. So be sure to check them all out on our webpage or on iTunes. And, hey, you know what that means? It's time for Sweeney to clear the floor, Katie bar that door, Molly put on another pot of Irish coffee, and bring out the Irish dancers. It's time we get this show on the road. We've got a full house today, not a chair to spare. I'm Mike OLaughlin, your host, and you can reach me on my webpage at irishroots.com, or you can check out the written show notes on my blog anytime. We've got extra links there, so it might help you out. I'd go there and check that out if you had the time. And remember, you can phone 816-256-3360 and leave your comments on my recorder. Try it, you'll like it. Now, among today's topics, Killian is the Irish family name of the day. The Ireland Whiskey Trail, Library of Congress and National Archives Online, Paul MacCartney's Irish Roots, Welsh and Irish Language Help, and who was the original Rose of Tralee? Now that's a story you should know. And number 7, Steamboat Irish, an audiobook. Audiobook excerpt. I bet you know what that's about, don't you? Hey, now that does it for that. Let's move on to the notes for the week. Well, here you know I've got a note from the Rose of Tralee Festival and took a look at their page online. And you really should know the real story about the Rose of Tralee, and that's none other than Mary O'Connor. And that goes way back to the Irish famine times. And, of course, it's a story between a poor Irish person and a rich other person, and you need to check it out. Hey, that Rose of Tralee Festival runs from the 21st to the 26th of August, and you can find out the whole story at theroseoftralee.ie. I've got the link on the blog. Number 2, the Library of Congress is now on iTunes U, so if you're on iTunes, you hit that iTunes U, and they're starting to make a whole lot available in this very easy format, so even if you're just a historian, that's a curious thing to follow up. It's very interesting. And remember that iTunes is free if you don't have it, and you can download it for free at apple.com. Number 3, the National Archives now has its own YouTube channel. That's been around for a couple of weeks now, and that includes some old clips of Irish interest as well. So not just history, but specifically, there's some very interesting Irish things there, so take a check out on that too. That's on YouTube. Link on the blog. And irishcentral.com, that's that big old Irish mega master site, and they've asked me to start an Irish Roots Cafe blog there, so I'm going to do it. Should start this week. I've got a link on the blog to that too. You can look under the blogs. I'm right there. I think they call it an opinion blog. Of course, you know, I'd like to think that all my statements were facts, but apparently some of my statements are opinions, and I have to agree with that when I think about it twice. Hey, now it's time to move on to what? The book of the month. Well, the book of the month this month, we're doing another audio excerpt. This will be our I think our third audio excerpt from the Missouri Irish, or Irish Settlers on the American Frontier book that I wrote back in 1984 and updated in 2008. And you'll have to listen to this week's podcast, which is this right here, and you'll hear this excerpt read by Molly Nickel in just a second. And we sort of talk a little bit about the Steamboat Irish, and we saw how the Irishman Joseph Murphy made the wagons for hundreds of thousands who came to the American West right out of St. Louis. And we've also seen the role of the Irish in the newspaper and publication business. That was well established. Now let's also take a look at another preferred form of transportation in those early days. That's travel on the rivers, and that's via steamboat. And let's take a little listen here for Molly. Take it away.
Steamboat Irish. The steamboats were a vital link in communications and trade. Joseph Murphy's wagons carried people west by land. Other Irishmen would move the settlers up and down the Missouri and Mississippi. William and John Finney came from Ireland in 1818, making a fortune in St. Louis steamboat supplies. Living in the Finney mansion, they acquired real estate, wealth, and prominence in early Missouri. Among other projects, they built the Lindell Hotel, or helped to build it, as several Irishmen have laid claim to the building. James and William Patrick, Irish from Pennsylvania, built steamboats and established a lumber yard in St. Louis. Patrick Gorman of County Kilkenny was a nephew of the Walsh brothers. A popular steamboat captain, he also served as president of the Union Fire Company. Barton Abel, of paternal Irish heritage, was captain of the steamboat Ocean Wave. He served as a Missouri legislator in 1850 and as president of the Merchants Exchange. The first man to cast a vote for the emancipation of Missouri, he was collector of internal revenue in St. Louis. The hands on deck during the famine were mostly Irish, according to O'Hanlon. These vessels provided a vital service along the rivers for both new immigrants and old settlers. Referred to as Fulton's Folly, the steamboat moved the West and the Irish into a new era.
Hey, that's a nice little excerpt. I like those notes. I tell you, it is an interesting thing when you start looking into history. And just one more note here before we get into the rest of the day. We've got a blog reader and a podcast. Now, we've just added a blog reader to this blog just to see what it was like. And it's a computerized reader. It just simply reads the blog, turning it into audio. And we thought we'd try that out. But you have to remember, our podcast is completely different. That's what I'm speaking right now into the microphone, making a podcast in a real human voice. And I'm the host, and the podcast always has some things that are not in the blog and vice versa. So it's good to check them both out. And to go to my broadcast page for podcast, you have to either go to irishroots.com or you can go to iTunes. I'm on there too. And sometimes I put a link in the blog. Remember, it's got to be my voice or it's just the old audio reader. Hey, you know what's coming up? We're going to talk a little bit about the Irish roots of Paul MacCartney and give you a link for that. But you know what time's coming up right now? It's time to raise our eyes skyward, give thanks, and ask for help. Here are today's Magnificent Seven. Well, number one, welcome new member Michael Noble, Ellicott City, Maryland, researching Robert Noble, born 1783, the family from Corhana, Killishandra Parish, County Cavan, and sons Robert and Alexander came to the U.S. in 1845 or thereabouts and settled in Shelby County, Missouri in 1856. Hey, I bet you want to take a look at this Missouri Irish book, or maybe you've already got it. Number two, John S. Nixdorf of Baltimore, Maryland. Your county down genealogy has shipped. Number three, welcome new member Hugh W. Watson of Tacoma, Washington. Looking for the Warburton family name, and that was the grandmother's side there. And they've traced it back to Richard Warburton of Gary Hinch in the Kings County, Ireland. Number four, Steve Andrusovic, Your Beginner's Guide to Irish Family Research has shipped. Number five, Julian Jackson of County Cork, Ireland, Your County Armagh Genealogy and Family History Notes have shipped. And Becky Fisher of Granby, Ohio, Your Missouri Irish has shipped. Hope you enjoy that. And Deborah Gastel of Howell, New Jersey, Your Book of Irish Families, Great and Small, has shipped. That takes care of that. And of course, this is the time I always got to stop and remember that I've got to say thanks to all of you, because you're the one that make this podcast possible, and all the books and all the fun we're having here, folks. Couldn't do it without you. Now we're going to move on to what we're going to see. How about the Irish family name of the day? Well, the Irish family name of the day is Killian. And boy, there's even a brew by the name of Killian's, isn't there? Like a Killian's Red. But this is about the family and the family name. And today's family history is in honor of member Quentin C. Smith, seeking the pedigree of Maurice Killian, who married Bridget Flood, daughter of Christopher Flood, and they all came to the U.S. in December of 1848. And that was just right after the peak of the famine, and they were still hard times, so they escaped some mighty troubled days over there, I think. Now we take a look. Well, you wonder what kind of spelling she got for the name. Well, the name we listed it under was Killian, but that, of course, can change to not just Killian, but Gillen. Could be a G at the beginning instead of a K. That's true for most names that start with a K. And instead of Killian, you can pronounce that Killeen. And some people might spell it Killeen, or there might be some confusion between the two names. And of course, Killian, I-O-N or I-A-N or I-E-N on the ending there. You got to be aware of all three of those, because those spellings can be interchangeable at times in written records. And there's a few more there, but we'll leave them on the blog. And they're part of variant spelling groups number 1017, 2465, 1211, and 1407. And that's taken from the Master Guide to the Various Spellings of Irish Family Names. Hey, the history of the name, well, we'll just give you a few notes here. The Killian name or surname is traditionally found in Roscommon and Westmeath counties in Ireland, and the family's been traditionally centered there for centuries, all the way into modern times. And if we take a look at the birth index, you'll find that there's 13 births of the name, which is not a whole lot, but it's some, so it ranks up there somewhere. And they're all given to counties Roscommon and Westmeath, so that sort of proves the Common's thought there that that's the counties of record for those folks. And at that time, the spelling was Killian, which may be the most common spelling of the name today, too. And we took that from the Book of Irish Families, Great and Small. Link on the blog, or you can find it right on my webpage. We take a quick look at the Irish family coats of arms, and we look at the old coats of arms. We don't find any arms that are in the old section, say pre 1800. That's for sure. There's still some searching to do there for you, though. And hey, you know what? Coming up later this episode, what sort of things are worn out that tourists just sort of dump and leave behind at the airport, or maybe they're just so tired they forget about them, or maybe they're afraid they can't get through customs for one reason or the other. We're going to find out some curious little things there. And one more thing on the name, we're going to check the free master index search of Irish names at irishroots.com, and we'll find the name there about 15 times. That's 15 sources, so you know you're never going to come up dry. And let's just take 5 or 6 of those. It's in our Families of County Clare and our County Kerry and our County Galway book, the hardbound books from the Irish Families Project. So they're listed in there for sure. And it's also in Missouri Irish, the original history of the Irish in Missouri. And as well in our smaller spiral-bound county books, they're in Roscommon, Meath, and Westmeath. So real quick, there's 6 counties that we found them referenced in. Plenty to look at. And of course, like I said, they're in the birth index of Ireland, so you got a good start there if you haven't already begun. Now it's time we move on. What are we going to move on to? Let's take 4 websites of the week and maybe even throw in a video. Well, here, number 1 is going to be a page that says 19th century immigrant routes, and it says records for Wilmington, Delaware, USA, and vicinity, Irish records for County Galway, Mayo, and Donegal. And that's at www.lally.com, L-A-L-L-E-Y. Link is on the blog. Number 2, the Irish Whiskey Trail for your next trip. Now, that's a unique thought there. I think you can just go along and look at it all and understand the history of it, and I don't know if they give away any free samples or not. You'd have to check that out on your own. But it's a unique trail all the way through parts of Ireland, checking out the magic of whiskey and distilling in Ireland and some stories about how it's made and where it's made. And It's an interesting thing to check out. Link on the blog. Number 3, the Irish word for the day. Now that's a nice little website. Not just because it gives you an Irish word for the day you can study or look at. You can actually click that little button and the word plays out for you, and they pronounce it for you, and that's a help. Even if you know nothing, just to hear the lilt of the language, one day you might learn something. So I advise that. I'm going to try it. Number 4, hey, The Quiet Man, the original trailer from 1952. I'm not talking about the trailer those stars stayed in, like Victor MacLachlan and Maureen O'Hara and John Wayne and Barry Fitzgerald. A trailer was, it's the little things they do to publicize the movie, and they take some of the best shots of the movie and they put them up there on the screen, and that's a nice little video on YouTube, so you'll have to watch it. It's enjoyable. And hey, I think Peter's putting together a Quiet Man tour here for October. Boy, that's coming up soon. So boy, you want to contact him or let me know, and I'll get a hold of him and see if they've got any seats left. I think I might go on that one. A Quiet Man's just different enough to get me interested. Hey, that does it for the websites of the week. We've got so much going on. I better not dally around here. Now it's time for the favorite segment of everybody, the last segment, Curious News and Notes. Hey, number 1, you know what people might leave behind at the Dublin airport? Well, let's see. You're tired, you can't get back, your clothes might be a little dirty, you're carrying that tombstone, and it's just too heavy, you can't take it a foot farther, you're going to take it home and plant it in your backyard maybe, and you just leave it. I can't go another step, or maybe they told you to be an extra $200 to take it on the plane. Hey, how about, did you forget to pick up that bag of cash that was sitting next to you when you were boarding the plane? Well, I tell you what, they've even found bags of cash there in the airport, so boy, I could write a book about that, I think. And hey, can't afford to pay that extra fee for putting it on the airplane for that satellite dish you got at a bargain at a little garage sale in Ireland? Well, just leave it at the airport. They'll take care of it. And boy, that's just what people have done. And not only that, there's a lot of wheelchairs and crutches that are scattered at the airport there that nobody takes back. You think they visited Knock maybe before they came to the airport? I don't know, but there'd be a story behind that one too. You read all about it on the blog. You can see it at the herald.ie. Links on my blog. It'll take you right there. Number 2, Paul MacCartney. Well, I know most people know about Paul MacCartney. He spans the generations. Paul MacCartney of the Beatles and of Wings fame was born June 18th, 1942 in Liverpool, England, to parents of Irish heritage. And his mother was Patricia Mahan MacCartney, whose father was also an Irish-born Catholic. His father's great-grandfather was also a native of Ireland and was Protestant. And that side of the family went from Ireland on to Galloway in Scotland before settling in Liverpool. And you can read more about Paul MacCartney in this link we've got on the blog, and we got that from Irish Central, and boy, they're just digging up stories from all over the place, aren't they? Number 3, here is something for all of you with Welsh heritage. Check out walesonline.co.uk. Just read an article about learning the Welsh language there, and it looks like it might be sort of invented, so give that a try. Links on the blog there too. Hey, speaking of language, now here is a site where you learn one Irish word a day. And you just click on the button. I told you about that before, but we're keeping it here too. We're adding it on the description here because you click on that button and you hear the word pronounced just as many times as you like. And I think it even pronounces it in different situations, like used, maybe as a verb or an adjective. One of those things. And that's just the right thing for me, so I wanted to mention that again. That's just a real neat little thing to try. Number 5, Jim Gavin promotes the British Lawn Mower Racing Association, of which he is president. And Jim is a native of Sundays Well in County Cork, Ireland. And he's gone over there and he's just promoting this association of lawnmower racing. And it now has 400 members. Hey, you know what? You might form a branch of that organization in your neighborhood, and you could have your little Irish American Lawnmower Racing Association or Canadian Amer, or I wonder how much you can tinker with those engines. There might be some joker hooks up an airplane engine or something and ends up running right through your living room. We hope not, but that was an interesting little story from the IrishExaminer.com. And last, number 6, Paul Gill, a Clare Galway innkeeper, has added some extras to get people to come and stay at his place. And with tourism down about 30%, he's even started giving free trips to the Aran Islands, free petrol, he even advertised once, and free cruises to the Corrib, and just to keep the tourists coming. And he's also expecting a baby, or should we say his wife is expecting a baby. And stop by if you are in that area of Galway. I wonder if he'd pay my way to Galway if I'd come stay there. That would be nice. Now, we read about that in the independent.ie online, and you can too. We've got a link on the blog. Well, that about wraps it up. The only new things going on are that trip, the Quiet Man tour in about 2 months or so, and we're going to see you at the Dublin, Ohio Irish Festival, and we're taking the Sean No Singing class, 2 days of little instruction there before the festival on Wednesday and Thursday. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and hey, especially if you're a beginning researcher, remember to drop by those genealogy tents at the festivals. You might just learn something, and all at the same time as while you're having fun. So it might be easier to start there than it is at a library if you haven't been into a library for 5 or 10 years. Not that that would ever be the case, but this is one way to start. So, hey, remember, members foot the bill so they get first priority, but we're open to all. And by the way, a big thank you to all of our members. And away.